Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Well, we made it, MJ. Survived our first Arizona Cardinals draft. 3 days, 7 shows. Sunday was wonderful, by the way.
Yeah, kind of day to kind of reflect and relax, and here we are.
More relax.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And here we are back. They're back on the practice field, and then coming up in a couple of weeks, we're going to have rookie mini camps. So now the focus turns on the field.
Correct.
Versus the stuff we've been talking about for the last 3.5 months.
Now the speculation changes a little bit. As opposed to the number 1 overall pick, it's, okay, what is this offense now going to look like?
I think everyone's curious, including you and I. I mean, I think we'll see some of it in training camp. We'll see some of it in the preseason, but you don't want to tip your hand too much considering you got 3 out of the first 4 at home.
Yeah, but these guys do need the reps.
Yes.
So I think a lot of it will be done behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, new staff, curious to see how much they play the starters. We know that the Cardinals open up at home in the first 2 preseason games, and then they play the Raiders on ESPN. That'll be the new Monday night crew, which they have yet to announce. Murray versus the Raiders. Even though it's a preseason,
there's going to be a lot of hype.
There's going to be a lot of hype, exactly.
It's not going anywhere.
Cards got Murray.
We'll just have to kind of wait and see exactly how much Kyler Murray in this offense, what it looks like as we progress now here deeper into the offseason and into the summer.
And now that we're past the draft, Cardinals have the first claim when it comes to the waiver wire until week 4. Now, when it gets to week 4, it's based on records. Of course, the Browns have cashed in on that. So anybody that gets released is subject to the waiver wire. The Cardinals put a claim on them. Cardinals are at 84 right now with the 11 draft picks. They're going to send out a release here at some point today. They signed 12 undrafted free agents. I don't know who's on tryouts and who actually signed a contract. So I anticipate a couple of roster moves before we get to the end of the week.
Yeah, and of course, rookie minicamp, as you mentioned, MJ, not this week, the following week. So we'll talk more about the 2019 draft class as we continue here on this Monday afternoon. And with that, let's take off. Tell you what's ahead on the show here. We'll be joined by Byron Murphy, the Cardinals' second-round draft pick. Since he's from here, he was here for the draft and then visited the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals training facility on Saturday. Andy Isabella, just how fast is this kid and how good are his hands? Some video you don't want to miss, then a best of, if you will, from the conference calls held over the 3-day draft. Get some personalities joining the team, which is good. And of course, your questions via social media using the hashtag CardsCover2. Hashtag CardsCover2 using the number 2 to get involved in the show. We've got a lot of questions. We'll get to as many as we can just a little bit later on here today. But first, the news of the day, and the numbers are in, and they are very, very good. 2019 NFL Draft was the highest rated, most watched, and most attended. The average audience for 3 days, ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network, MJ, 6.1 million viewers. 5.5 million a year ago. The total viewership was more than 47.5 million. 45.4 million was the number in 2018, and estimates of 600,000 in attendance in Nashville, which completely obliterated the previous high, which was 250,000 in Philadelphia a couple years back. Yes, it was a very, very successful 2019 draft.
Yeah, and give those fans credit. They are out there in the rain right when the commissioner took the podium, and 600,000 over the weekend. I just imagine how social media. Now, just to give you an idea how well the NFL did, NBA playoffs, Spurs, Nuggets, 1.8. NHL playoffs, Bruins, Blue Jackets, 1.5. Blues, Stars, 1. Now, let's go back to a couple All-Star games. 2008 Major League All-Star Game, 8.6 million viewers. 2019 All-Star Game, 6.8. So not even close. And again, we know that between the mock drafts and all the speculation, I think I want to say Friday was down 2%. I think maybe the
Thursday night, opening night,
was down 2% from a year ago.
But overall, it was 8% higher than a year ago.
Not surprised by the numbers, and this is what the NFL does. That they're in the news every offseason.
Yeah, so a good start to the 2019 offseason, if you will. We'll get back to the draft talk here in a moment. But as MJ mentioned at the start of the show, yes, the team back on the field here on this Monday. The offseason strength and conditioning program continues. It is now phase 2, and what that is are 3 weeks. This week, plus the next 2 weeks, and again, still voluntary. But here is what is allowed. All coaches are permitted on the field. On-field workouts may include individual player instruction, but still no offense versus defense, and no live contact, no helmets. But once again, it's that continuation of taking what you learned in the classroom, those meetings, now going out on the field and either walking through it or jogging through it. You're not going full speed, but kind of get some familiarity that with the mental reps, but now you get the physical reps.
Yeah, and hopefully over a period of time. Now for the rookies, their head's going to be spinning, and that's why they're going to be here to the end of June. But hopefully you just cut down on some of the mental errors. It's going to happen. You learn something, you see it, and then you get on the field and you're thinking versus reacting. So I think you'll see some mental errors, but hopefully those mental errors cut down before they go to camp coming up late July, early August.
Well, and this period right now is big for all the players, but specifically I would think for the 2 quarterbacks now. With Josh Rosen in Miami, you got Brett Hundley and Charles Knopf. Until Kyler Murray gets here, Brett Hundley and Knopf are running the entire show.
Yeah, and that's probably good. Obviously I look at Brett Hundley. I think he has more of a skill set like Josh Rosen, but now that he's in the system, obviously we hope nothing happens to Murray, but it is football, and Hundley's the guy. He's got experience. He was backing up Aaron Rodgers, and then in Seattle last year he was backing up Russell Wilson, so he's got a good pedigree there. But it's going to take him some time, and hopefully we see Murray the entire season.
And perhaps Kingsbury tossing that football around.
Yeah,
as well,
that's right.
As we saw during the veteran voluntary
minicamp. Well, the more you can do. But the thing is, if Cliff's throwing the ball to you, you better not drop it.
Yeah, exactly. One more note before we dive back into the draft. Patrick Peterson, what is going on with him? Everyone obviously is curious given his cryptic social media posts early last week. And, the latest is this, and it comes directly from General Manager Steve Keim. He addressed the situation, specifically the situation involving Patrick Peterson, this morning on Doug and Wolf on 98.7 FM, Arizona Sports Station.
A lot of people are saying, well, you know what, you drafted Byron Murphy, number 33 in the second round because of the problems with Patrick. A lot of people are saying, well, you know what, you drafted Byron Murphy, number 33 in the second round because of the problems with Patrick Peterson. Is there any truth to that?
No, matter of fact, I would love to see Patrick Peterson retire a Cardinal, and I had some great conversations with him last week. In fact, he was the first person to text me when we drafted Kyler Murray.
Wow.
Do you expect him to come back to OTAs?
Absolutely. I don't know why he wouldn't. He's certainly a member of this team and a leader in the defensive locker room. So he is definitely going to be a big part of this season.
Because you've heard the show. I'm a huge Patrick fan, but I'm getting a little worried, Steve. It seems like the drama is starting to mount. How are you guys handling it in the building? What's Patrick's future?
He's here. He's under contract, and like I said, I want him to remain a Cardinal. I know that there are very few guys that possess his skills to be a natural cover corner, and just to me, you can't have enough good ones out there. So having the combination of him and Robert Alford and Byron Murphy, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch on defense.
Again, that is the voice of General Manager Steve Keim this morning on with Doug and Wolf on 98.7 FM, Arizona Sports Station. I don't know if it's much ado about nothing, because it is something when obviously he does not show up during voluntary veteran minicamp. Again, it's voluntary, but his absence certainly was noticed. Yet again, we are talking about something involving Patrick Peterson that deals with not on the field but off the field.
Yeah, and he's under contract 2 more years. I anticipate he'll be here sooner rather than later. And imagine that a media member worried about Patrick Peterson. Worry about him on Sundays.
Well, it was good to hear Keim say, look, they've exchanged text messages and did so as late as Thursday and after the pick was made.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that when they selected Byron Murphy, he was excited about that. So, listen, It's a business. I think they all understand it, and I think proof is in the pudding just on how Josh Rosen basically dealt with everything. Classy guy. He still showed up at Larry's celebrity softball game. He won the home run derby. He was the MVP, and now he's in Miami. He had his press conference today, and I read something earlier. The Dolphins have not ruled out taking a quarterback next year. So I got to think, if you want to know what you have in him, I know Ryan Fitzpatrick usually is a streaky quarterback. Got off to a really good start last year and then kind of dipped. Listen, Josh is part of their future. He's under contract for the next 4 years. I got to think, if you're Chris Grier, Brian Flores, you want to see what he has, because they're going to have a high pick just based on their roster. They could be 1, 2, or 3, and obviously Miami also has picked up some picks for next year. So it's interesting, but I think he's in a good spot. Chad Shea was the quarterback's coach at New England. He is now in Miami, and they hired senior assistant Jim Caldwell, who is a sounding board for quarterbacks, worked with Peyton Manning, obviously Stafford. I know Stafford doesn't win a playoff game. So I think he's in a really good spot when it comes to coaching and teaching.
Yeah, I wish Josh all the best.
Yes.
And again, Cardinals moving on. Kyler Murray is your quarterback, along with Brett Hundley and, of course, Charles Knopf. Just getting started here on a Monday edition of Cards Cover 2 as we broadcast from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, and, of course, doing so in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. And if you ever miss a show, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. And don't forget, all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts can be found at azcardinals.com/podcast. And if you're excited about the upcoming season, 2019 tickets are on sale. Go to azcardinals.com/tickets. All right, for the second straight year now, the Cardinals used their second-round pick on a local kid. It was Christian Kirk in 2018, Byron Murphy here in 2019, both, by the way, from Scottsdale Saguaro High School. We had a chance to visit with Murphy on Saturday, and he was still very emotional from the night before when his name was called by the commissioner and the phone call from general manager Steve Keim, and even emotional as well during his introductory press conference. So we had to ask, is he typically an emotional person?
You know, it's just a dream that came true. You know, I've been dreaming about this my whole life, and like right now, this whole process is crazy. You know, I'm in my hometown. I'm playing for a team I've been looking up to since I was a kid. So right now, everything's emotional. My mind's in every places, but I'm just ready to get to work, meet the guys I'm gonna be on the field with, my brotherhood, meet my coaches, and everything.
A dream, obviously, to be drafted in the NFL, but now how much more, because it's in your own backyard.
It's crazy. The opportunity, I just want to thank God again. The opportunity is crazy. Just how life works. You know, I feel like He had a plan for me, and this was a perfect fit. And like I said, the emotions is just going crazy right now, and I'm ready to start this journey.
You know, you said you were nervous out there. You can relax with us. We're part of the team right now, and I know this is a dream come true. Did you sleep last night?
Last night, I did not sleep. I was thinking about everything. Just ready, like I said, I'm ready to get to work. You know, I put that chip on my shoulder after the draft because got emotional, like I said. But last night, my mind was everywhere thinking about everything. I'm just ready to get on the field again.
You know, we've been talking about the Cardinals. Obviously, went out and got Robert Alford in free agency, but we knew that, you know, looking long term, and we've talked about it, whether you were local or not, you were the best corner in this draft. Now, granted, you didn't go in the first round, but you're in a great situation here. What was it like going on the visits? Did anybody tell you if you were on the board they were going to take you in the first round?
The visits was all just, you know, board work, meetings with all the coaches, the GMs, and everyone. But it was kind of more of the same thing. You know, we're interested in you, meeting everyone, kind of the good talk, getting to know me, my background, all the information is going out to eat. But there was no workouts or anything like that. Kind of the same thing, conversation. We're excited for you. We're interested and be ready.
All right, let's talk about your defensive backs coach, because we know how well he is, and obviously look at the guys. And I was told he doesn't recruit players that he doesn't think can get in the NFL.
Yes, sir.
What has Jimmy Lake meant to you, the defensive backs coach at Washington?
Coach Lake, like I said, he's another father figure for me. He's always looking out for our players on the field and off the field. He was someone I can go to, even if it's on the weekend, I could just call, ask him questions. So he was always there for us, you know. He's a competitive guy as well, so he's always competing with us every single day. Even in the film room, he's like, oh, you didn't make this play. Even if it was a good play, he's going to say something was bad about it. That's what I love about him, because he's getting us better every day.
How would you describe yourself as a player?
As a player, I would say all heart. That's one thing I'll just say, all heart, going out there, try to be the best I could be.
Now, as far as your skill set, I mean, a scouting report, what are you good at, and where do you think you need to improve now making that jump to the NFL?
You can always improve on technique. You know, everyone in this level is going to be great. So I just got to keep improving my technique, obviously keep working with my guys on the field, getting better at little things, and just, keep doing what I do, just be myself.
We've heard that you're very physical. You're not afraid to make a hit, make a tackle.
Yes,
Where
sir.
does that come from?
It's just all heart. I play with heart. I play with emotion when I'm out there on the field. So, a lot of people say corners can't tackle or something like that. So I kind of want to be different, go out there and make those tackles.
Now, some of the comps, and when they comp, they think you're going to turn to this player. I think comps are more about traits that you have similar to. The guy we heard, Tyrann Mathieu. Do you buy into that?
Yes, I definitely buy into that. I've been watching Tyrann Mathieu since I was a kid as well, even when he was at LSU. And like I said, kind of when I was growing up, lightweight. Everyone was saying you need to get your size up. Well, I looked at him like, well, he's kind of, he's not the biggest dude, but look how he's playing. He plays like the biggest dude on the field. He's playing with all heart and emotion, so I could kind of relate to him. And I'm glad I kind of, get connected with someone like that because, that also puts a chip on my shoulder because I want to be great just as he was.
All right, speaking of that, you're 190 right now?
Yes, sir.
All right, you're 21 years old.
Yes, sir.
Now you're going to get a little money? You going to hit that weight room, get stronger?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely in the weight room. I'm getting stronger every day, yes, sir.
All right, we'll talk about your versatility. You could play inside, outside. Obviously, the Cardinals feel like they're going to play a lot of three corners. You'll be competing for a job. And also, if you're not the starter, playing on special teams. And we watched some film of you. You're a guy that can get down the field and make a tackle. But talk about your versatility and what else you can do.
I can play, like you said, I can play inside, outside, like I told Coach. Wherever my role is, inside, nickel, corner, outside corner, I'm going to come in and play my hardest 100%. Also on special teams, I love special teams. I played every single part, special team on kickoff. I play punt returner, every gunner, jammer, everything. And that's one thing that I like too as well.
On the inside, outside, what's the biggest difference for you, or is there a difference, an adjustment as far as whether you're playing in the slot or on the outside?
Well, at UW, we kind of have different techniques. So outside is more of press, you're on your man, and then inside, you're kind of 5 yards off. I feel like I can play both. I've been doing that my whole life.
What has your conversations been, if there have been any, in a relationship with Marcus Robertson?
We were talking about, he came and he met with us in Seattle. We were just going over everything, like the board work and everything, asking me questions about the background. But he just told me when I get here, get ready to work. You're going to come in and compete, and I got to, come in. So it's come in and try to earn my own spot.
He has spoken very highly of you. Has he shared that with you?
Yes, sir. He talked to me. We had a great conversation. Everything he said, I felt like it was real. He's a great guy, and I'm ready to get to work and get to meet him again.
Well, now that you're a Cardinal, we can kind of peel the curtains back a little. We were having lunch one day, and we sat next to him, and he raved about you. I mean, we never brought up Greedy Williams, Baker. I mean, Craig and I are like, wow, if he's there, and we thought you were going to be a first-round pick, but he raved about you. All right, so you obviously got the opportunity now. What's the first thing you're going to purchase? I know you're going to save your money. What's going to be like for you now to be in the NFL?
Right now, it's kind of, going through getting ready for minicamp, kind of sitting back, not buying anything too crazy right now.
That's good.
I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm going to make sure I just kind of get on my feet first before I look into all those type of things, and then just keep going from there. I feel like I think the players stay at the hotel for minicamp, so stay there. Not try to get no big house, not try to go get a car, and just just relax and get on my own feet first.
And I'm sure you talked to Christian about that. He obviously lived here and he stayed in the hotel.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
It looks like you're off to a good start. Congratulations and thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate
Welcome
you
to the
guys.
Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Yes, sir.
See, he's relaxed now.
Yeah.
Very good conversation with Byron Murphy over the weekend. And, nervous excitement, anxious to kind of show now what he can do on the field after the Cardinals invested the number 33 overall pick in him. And the Marcus Robertson reference is new defensive backs coach Marcus Robertson, who was with the Denver Broncos prior to being hired here with the Cardinals. And I know, we know that Marcus is very excited to have Byron Murphy in the building. But as you heard him say also, that going to stay at the team hotel with the other fellow rookies. And that was something that Christian Kirk made a point to, that you brought up, to kind of keep that bonding. You don't have to go home, even though you're just around the corner, if you will, but it's important to be around your teammates as much as possible.
And you could see the relationship. Kirk was there, obviously, when he was drafted, and the fact is that that's a smart thing to do. And Kirk to actually room with Josh Rosen here, he's going to have another rookie. I always talk about when you're drafted part of the rookie class, and depending on how many undrafted free agents make the roster, you are attached for life. And when it comes to this class, they spend so much time together, whether it's at the combine, position-wise, pro days. So clearly him staying at home is big for him. And some kids prefer, maybe they want to get out, but he's got his parents here. He's got a great support group. And then obviously the facility and his teammates. So I think that's a smart move. He didn't have to do that, but I think he's aware of what it means when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think transition from college to pro, it's a huge jump, and it can be very eye-opening, and you can get lost, with where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. But because there is one, familiarity with the surroundings, but he's got Christian Kirk, he's got DJ Foster in that locker room, a couple of Saguaro Sabercats in there, plus Budda Baker. And I think that will be probably more than anything the guy that he might lean on a little bit more, same position group or position grouping, and then because of the UW connection as well. And I'm sure they've already had conversations.
Yeah, and then we referred to Jimmy Lake. I was told that Herm Edwards tried to hire him, but obviously, money talks, and got to give Herm credit noticing and hearing all the great stories about what he's been able to accomplish. And Chris Peterson's done a really good job there. You're starting to see a lot more Huskies, probably when Don James was there, even maybe a little bit with Neuheisel, but they're putting guys in the NFL. I know the Pac-12 conference is known for quarterbacks and skill position players, but here, Budda Baker, and then you throw in now Byron Murphy. I mean, the Cardinals are thrilled to have these guys.
Absolutely. And now 6 local players on this Arizona Cardinals roster as far as kids that played high school football in the state of Arizona. There's 3 Scottsdale Saguaro Sabercats, Murphy, Christian Kirk, DJ Foster. You got Terrell Suggs from Hamilton, Brett Hundley from Chandler, and then Brooks Reed from Sabino down in Tucson. We need to get all 6 of these guys together, and whether it's in a studio or just in a room or whatever, just let them talk shop and see if they can't, talk a little smack about everyone's high school.
Yeah, well, the good news is you got a couple of veterans in there. DJ Foster, he's been here a little while. We know that T. Sizzle obviously is excited to go back to Baltimore in the second week. And, Brett Hundley's been a veteran guy. So I would think they would chop it up, and maybe we can get them on our show, even though we don't have enough mics. Maybe we'll just turn our mics over to them and let them chop it up, because I think Brooks Reed and Hundley and Suggs would kind of carry the conversation. And then you had Foster in there, and then obviously that guy like Murphy. So, no, it's good. I mean, there's nothing like walking into a locker room and knowing people, and the fact that they all grew up idolizing and watching Larry Fitzgerald. They know aware of the franchise, when the Cardinals were playing on game day. So it's a win-win situation. I'm sure Cardinal fans were hoping N'Keal Harry would have been in that conversation, but he's in a good spot. He's got Tom Brady throwing to him, and I don't know if they would have taken him at 33. I think he was ranked maybe 4th wide receiver on their board. But I think he's in a really good spot. I think it worked out for everyone involved.
Is it now Uncle Fitz or Grandpa Fitz? I mean, everyone. How many people we keep hearing, whether it was this year's class or last year's draft class? Yeah, I grew up watching Larry Fitzgerald.
It's probably Uncle Fitz.
Uncle Fitz?
I don't think he wants to be the father figure. Now, he leads by example.
Yes.
So if you want to watch him, you could be the duck behind him. Watch how he's a pro every day in practice, in meeting rooms, the way he carries himself before and after games. So you can emulate and look at a lot of different guys. There's one guy in your locker room that you should definitely take a second and third advice from.
And then on the defensive side, Terrell Suggs,
Brooks Reed, yeah.
Be a lot of fun in that locker room coming up here this season. We continue here on this Monday afternoon, a Cardinals Cover 2 from the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, broadcasting as we always do in our Bose QC35s. Go to Bose.com for more information. And, of course, if you ever happen to miss a show, you can download as a podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, or TuneIn. And, of course, you can catch all of your favorite Cardinals podcasts on azcardinals.com/podcasts. And again, as I mentioned, season tickets and single game tickets on sale as we speak. azcardinals.com/tickets. Season just right around the corner, week 1 against the Detroit Lions. It will be here before you know it. And before we hear from the Bird Gang, again, keep your questions coming via the social media and the hashtag Cards Cover 2, hashtag Cards Cover 2. Want to have a little fun here with the 2019 Cardinals draft class and some of the more interesting video and some audio here on what we heard over the first 3 days during the 2019 NFL draft. And up first is wide receiver Andy Isabella out of UMass, second round number 62 overall. And some video has resurfaced. It's all good video, but this resurfaced over the weekend, and we're going back to 2015 high school track meet. It's a 100-meter race, and not only does it feature Isabella, but also the current Browns cornerback Denzel Ward, who was last year's 4th overall pick and earned a Pro Bowl selection in his rookie year. And basically, you see how fast Isabella is, because this race is not even close. It's the gentleman wearing the white shirt nearest to your screen, shoots out of the blocks, and then just burns past everyone and wins the race rather handily. And don't forget, Isabella at the scouting combine ran a 4.3140, which was fastest among all wide receivers, and something that everyone knew back in 2015 on just how fast this kid was.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to start from day one. Obviously, he's familiar with the air raid and the RPOs, and he's not just a one-trick pony playing in the slot. He's a guy that can take the top off the defense. You look at him on some video that we released over the weekend. He's really good in the intermediate routes, and that's one thing you can't teach is speed. And I had somebody ask me earlier, what's the difference between he and John Brown? Well, I think he's more physical. I think he's a better route runner. And when you look at that speed, I think you're going to see him get the opportunity, especially with Murray being able to throw that ball down the field. So I'm really excited about him. And they were active. You talked about going after 2 receivers. They actually drafted 3, and we'll get into some of the details there.
Yeah, the other difference between Isabella and Nelson might be their hands as well.
Well, yeah, but he was asking me about John Brown.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
The
yeah,
speed.
I never would have used
the
the word physicality when it came to J.J.
I see
Nelson.
what you're saying. As far as
Right.
just basically going, all right, go as fast as you can, as far as you can, and I'll make sure you get the football.
Exactly, and the route running. I
Yes.
mean, really crisp on his routes. And I know the Cardinals have at least 2, maybe 3 slot guys. I think they're going to move Larry around this year, but you would look at Christian Kirk and definitely Isabella as guys that can do a little bit more bubble screen, jet sweeps. Maybe you get these guys in space where maybe a 15-yard becomes a 20-yard pickup. So really intriguing, and you can just see, and we played it over the weekend, how excited. Now, Cliff said, maybe we didn't see all the video when they drafted Murray, but I think it was a sense of relief that it actually happened. But when Isabella was there, and the Cardinals do have a couple ties, Mark Whipple was the head coach at UMass. Spencer Whipple was there, so they have intel there. And one of their scouts, obviously, has scouted that area for a while. So the Cardinals felt like they had really good intel, and they did release a video in the flight plan showing him interviewing at the combine. So it wasn't like, like Larry. Larry only took 1 visit with San Diego at the time, and Cardinals picked him. I think that they obviously had intel from Denny Green.
Well, what really put Isabella on the map was the Senior Bowl week and what he was able to do during practice, and then also during the game as well. He had 7 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. By the way, also during also during Senior Bowl week, another video was posted. This was by Isabella on his own Twitter feed on just the amount of concentration that he has between the football and his hands, basically firing a football at something in his room, and then without looking catches it without any hesitation and movement whatsoever. This is fascinating here for those that are watching us here on EasyCardinals.com.
What is the ball hitting?
You know what? I don't like a bedpost or a chest, something. I
or
have
maybe
no
one
idea.
of those things you can jump on because it will bounce back to you. But
I don't know. That's unbelievable.
On a wire.
I just
Thank you,
not even paying attention. Just looking straight at dead eye of the camera
I can
and
see
then
the
firing
wire.
the football.
I do see the shadow now.
That's incredible.
That is. Hey, Larry Fitzgerald, before he would go to bed, the old saying is maybe Jerry Rice was able to turn the lights off, and then Larry would throw a ball in the air and try to catch it like throughout the night. And then his grandfather was an optometrist, and he actually put like pins in the ceiling of his room so he could focus on just one thing while catching the football.
These guys come up with like the most amazing different.
Hey, whatever gives you the edge.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Any little tricks.
Yeah. And, I'm not worried about him. Now, obviously, the coverage is going to be a lot different at this level. You're not going to have wide open. Even though you look at the game against Georgia, he put up good numbers against good corners. So I definitely think that he was worthy of taking there, and I know the Cardinals are really excited about his opportunities.
Well, you bring up the fact that just on what he was able to do in some of those bigger games, because it's one thing to do it against teams that you're more familiar with, but those big game opponents, you talk about Georgia, he had 15 catches for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also with the Senior Bowl, which you talked about, but then against Southern Florida, he had 13 catches for 191 yards and a touchdown. At number 21 or then number 21 Mississippi State as a junior, he had a season-high 158 yards receiving. So you're talking about Georgia, Southern Florida, and Mississippi State, 3 big opponents on the UMass schedule, in which Isabella showed that, it doesn't matter whom I'm playing against, I'm going to deliver. And, again, when the stage is biggest, Isabella comes through.
Yeah, we showed some highlights him playing against Texas. I know the Big 12 is not the greatest defense, but he's kind of built like Edelman. Now, Edelman was a quarterback at Kent State, a 7th-round pick. However, he was the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and that's the one comparison that people keep making regarding what comp, if you will, or where the Cardinals could see Isabella developing into. It's Julian Edelman of the New England Patriots.
Well, Wes Welker. You like to use different reference points, but definitely traits of some of those slot receivers that had successful careers. And Wes Welker, I want to say he wasn't drafted.
And just, as you said, get the ball in space.
Yep.
And then let me do the work as far as making the defenders miss, and I'll take it downfield for a big gain, or if not, a touchdown. So certainly fun to watch Isabella in college. We'll see what he does now at the next level. And some of these other draft picks as well. We're going to hear from some of these guys because we talked about personalities, and they have it. Just to kind of give you some background, once a player is selected in the draft, there is a conference call that is held in which the player is on the phone and allows the local media to ask some questions of the newest edition, trying to get them to know them a little bit and maybe just kind of figure out, where they are as far as the draft party, who they're with, what they're celebrating, and what this moment is like for them. And a couple stood out over these past 3 days during the draft. And we'll start with defensive lineman Zach Allen from Boston College, the 3rd-round pick, 65th overall. And he was asked his thoughts about Arizona because, remember, he said during the conference call that he trained here in Phoenix ahead of the scouting combine, and he loves the Arizona weather.
Well, the weather, I've grown up in New England, so these cold winters, I don't know how many of them I could have handled anymore. But, just it's got its own beauty with the mountains and everything. And the people, it's a growing city. It's a vibrant city. And, I'm just really glad I get to, be there again.
No, just stay out of Scottsdale and you'll be fine.
He was told that it's like 100, 110 degrees out, and he compared it as like, I've been shoveling snow in New England, and I'm ready to get out of there.
He'll feel it in
they all do.
Off-season workouts, OTAs, maybe even the mandatory minicamp. I don't know what the weather's going to be like the following Friday from this week.
And then the other draft pick, safety Deontay Thompson from Alabama, 5th round, 139 overall. And there's been some comparisons already between him and another former Alabama safety that the Cardinals had, Rashad Johnson. We can get into that in a moment. But that moment in which Thompson received the phone call from the Cardinals and the celebration that ensued, he was asked about where he was when that call was made and who he was celebrating. And he told the media that he was with his dad and his best friend, but they were on their way to their aunt's for a party. He was running late because of the draft, but then once they got to his aunt's house, he said, quote, "We are all eating a little brunch. It's kind of breakfast, but they threw lunch items in there. We're all having a good time. There's a crawfish boil going on today. If you could fly here from Arizona, we'd be delighted to have you."
Oh, that's very nice.
He had an invitation, which I didn't realize until after the fact. Not that we could have made it, but who knows?
And nobody showed up. Maybe he could bring it at some point during the season.
You know what? That's a good rookie initiation.
And the Cardinals during the season on Saturdays, they allow their family members to come out.
No, I don't want it on Saturday. I want it when we're here on Wednesday, Thursday, or
Well,
Friday.
you're going to have to so you're saying you want to break bread with him.
Absolutely.
Now, nothing against Rashad Johnson. Really smart player. He's doing sidelines in Alabama right now. He was a walk-on, 2-time captain. But I don't think he has the athleticism. And, we can talk about Isabella and Allen and some of these late draft picks, including the tight end in the 7th round. But DJ Swearingen last year of his deal. Buda Baker's making the switch back there. Rudy Ford's more of a teams player, so he's going to get an opportunity to not only play on teams, but I think he's going to be more similar to Adrian Wilson when it comes to laying the lumber.
Well, and what separated Johnson was just his football IQ.
Yes.
I mean, he knew where that ball was going and was able to direct traffic and get everyone else involved. But, yeah, as far as the athleticism, Thompson was projected to go much higher. There were some question marks about a wrist injury. He had surgery earlier in the year, some questions about his knee, which kind of surprised him. Steve Keim on the post-day draft press conference said there were no concerns on their end. He checked out, so that's a little unfortunate that got out on Saturday. But to hear Thompson, it sounds like he's completely fine and ready to roll, which is great because to get someone of his talent late on day 3 or late in the draft overall, I think it's someone that this Cardinals team is going to be very happy with, especially because big program, Nick Saban, you deliver, because if you don't at Alabama, people say it's almost a pro franchise in itself on the way things are run at Alabama.
Yeah, he was one of the best safeties in the conference. And Alabama, like they do every year, they had the most players drafted, and so it makes sense. I'm glad he's not a running back because when they leave there, they're usually beat up a little bit. But as long as he clears with medical and character, sign me up because I think he's going to be a thumper. And you don't want to have too many of those, but you can't have enough, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. The last draft pick we want to hear from here, offensive lineman Joshua Miles from Morgan State, a 7th-round selection, number 248 overall. He was asked about getting to know his fellow rookie offensive lineman, Lamont Guillard, who was drafted in the 6th round. And Miles let us in on a little secret.
Actually, we were roommates at the Shrine game.
How'd that go?
Oh, it went really well. Lamont's a good guy. Just watching him work was really great. He's a really talented guy, really strong. Just watching another talented lineman was awesome.
You guys gonna live together here?
I don't know. If he wants to split the rent, then sure.
Now, I'll say this. And again, you were on it. I thought they would take a receiver, and then you start thinking about it. I mean, this is really an indictment on the current Cardinal wide receivers. Now, after Fitz and Christian Kirk.
You know what? Hold that thought because we did get a question on that from our Bird Gang. And without further ado, let's hear from the Bird Gang what they're sounding off here on this Monday using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. And we'll begin. Actually, this is kind of we got a lot of the same type of question concerning the offensive line. So we're going to combine Instagram and Twitter for this one. But a lot of people want to know, because an offensive lineman wasn't taken until late, how do you feel about the current offensive line situation with what the Cardinals have, what they drafted, and potential of using the waiver wire system to add as we progress here this offseason?
Well, you're seeing teams release players right now. But I think they're going to bring in some undrafted free agents at the tackle position. We know last year Corey Cunningham was a 7th-round pick. Listen, they want to go with veteran guys. So Humphreys, Pugh, Cole, Sweezy, and then you throw in Marcus Gilbert, and then they usually draft 8 guys on game day. I would think Shipley would be your backup center, guard. Garcia can play both guard spots, and then Corey Cunningham is your swing tackle. Kobe Gossett is a guy they really like, physical guy, so I would think he'd be number 9. But again, once they get here, they really couldn't care less where you're drafted. Obviously, the top 4 or 5 picks, they're going to be on the roster, obviously, and then we'll see how much are active on game day. We know that the top 3 or 4 are going to be active on game day. So now you bring in some young guys and you develop them. But I really think you're going to be excited about Sean Kugler, the Cardinals offensive line coach. I don't know if they're going to run a power scheme or zone scheme. But they're going to be head and shoulders from they were a year ago. Now, the key is staying healthy.
Well, and that goes with any position. But there were Cardinal fans out there a little concerned that the offensive line wasn't addressed early in the draft. But I'll go back to what it was addressed, and that was in the offseason in free agency and in via trade with Marcus Gilbert. So it was addressed, and sometimes you can have a quicker fix with guys who are experienced versus waiting for a rookie offensive lineman to kind of figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have 20 offensive linemen, maybe 18 to 20, and they're going to add a couple more. The roster's at 84 right now, so I anticipate we're going to have some roster moves between now and over the weekend, and maybe carries out to next weekend, because we don't know of the 12 guys they signed how many are under contract or how many are coming in here on tryouts.
All right, now here's the question, or what you were going to get into, MJ,
Okay.
because we got a user on Instagram wanting to know. We drafted 3 wide receivers. Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald are locks. How many wide receivers do you expect to see on the roster week 1?
7. Now, I don't know how many can be active on game day. I can give you the top 6 right now. This is my projection. Fitzgerald, Kirk, Isabella, Butler, Keyshawn Johnson, and Kevin White. I'm told the Cardinals have been thoroughly impressed with Kevin White, obviously a big target, ex-receiver, but he hasn't been able to put together a good season. But I was told that they're intrigued with him. And then guys like Trent Sherfield, Jalen Tolliver, you even throw Farrell Cooper in there. They're gonna be guys that are gonna have to make the roster. But hey, competition's good for everyone involved.
Well, Chad Williams, Demir Beard, who was picked up in free agency, but the big one that people are going to have an eye on is Chad Williams.
Yeah, and he was a 3rd-round pick, and if he hasn't got it right now, then I think they got to make a decision to move on. I think there's a couple guys that when we start looking at the roster. I think Tremaine Brock, based on drafting Byron Murphy, he could be on the bubble. Chad Williams, if he's buried on the depth chart at wide receiver, I think he's on the bubble. And then I'm curious to see what happens with Robert Nkemdiche, obviously coming off the ACL. He's ahead of schedule, like they all say. It just matters he start PUP, which means he's out for training camp. Hopefully we see him in September, because going out and getting Zach Allen, Darius Fion, Corey Peters, and Rodney Gunter, you have 4 at that position now, and you want to have 6. Last year they went with a 4-3, and they had 8 defensive line.
One more question from Instagram. User wants to know, we heard Keim say Kyler Murray will be the day 1 starter. Which other rookies do you see starting day 1?
I definitely think Murphy will start at the slot position over Tremaine Brock. I think Isabella will be in the mix. I think Hakeem Butler will be in the mix. Some of these other guys are more for depth, but I know that they like the tight end out of UCLA.
Caleb Wilson.
Caleb Wilson. I mean, he's not a blocker, so I think they keep 3 tight ends. I would say Clay, Ricky Seals-Jones, and then you throw in Caleb Wilson, and he really excelled as a pass-catching tight end in the Pac-12. I think I want to say he had the most yardage, and so he's the guy that can get open in the intermediate routes, and hopefully over time he could become a better blocker. But if he's in the game, he obviously could be one of the targets.
Well, and right now, the tight end position, you have more of the pass catchers versus the blockers.
I think I would say Clay is probably the best blocker, and then we have Darrell Daniels. Darrell Daniels, excuse me. I think he's competing with probably Caleb for that 3rd spot. And then a couple of these guys could slide to our practice squad.
Let's move to Twitter as Bird Gang sounding off here on a Monday afternoon. We brought up wide receiver. This user wants to know about Hakeem Butler. What potentially made him fall?
Well, the conference he plays in, but his average is like 14 to 16 yards per catch, and he had some drops. To me, that's concentration, that's focus. But, I think the Cardinals drafted a guy named Samkins from Florida, Fresno State a few years ago. It was, but he didn't make the roster. So the fact that Cliff obviously knew him in college, I'm sure he tried to recruit all these guys because they kind of fit the air raid and the RPOs. So I think he'll have a role. It's just, concentration. But I think he's the ex-receiver that they were looking for, along with Kevin White. And on those 50-50 balls, he's going to have to come down with them.
And a lot of this with these rookies, as far as whether they play week 1 or not, talent is one thing. Do you know the playbook? Do you know what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to be?
Yeah, and usually right around Thanksgiving, they hit the wall because they're ready for their bowl game. And some guys make strides and some guys hit the wall. But usually around Thanksgiving, I know there's going to be some growing pains with Murray early on, but this offense fits him to a T, what Kingsbury wants to do. Now it's a matter about protection. But I think at the end of the day, at the end of the season, Murray's best friend on the team is going to be David Johnson.
Absolutely. More questions from Twitter. User wants to know, who do you think will be the biggest steal from our draft?
I want to go with Deontay Thompson.
Probably one of the more well-known players as far as the talent, but because he dropped, you might be right as far as getting a steal, as far as the value at the pick. versus what the player can do.
Yeah, and again, you got Buda Baker and Swearinger. Swearinger's on the last year of his contract. He plays well. The Cardinals have a ton of cap space next year once they get that dead money off the cap. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to pick Isabella. I think he can have the biggest impact besides Murray. Zach Allen's going to be part of the rotation with the D-line. But I would say Thompson, just because of his background, playing for Nick Saban, who runs a pro-style defense, and the fact that he's not afraid to lay some lumber, I think he could be an immediate impact. Whether that's in September or October, that remains to be seen.
Okay, so you think Thompson biggest steal. This Twitter user wants to know, which of the 11 draft picks are you most excited to see playing? And I'm just going to throw this out. This was not part of the question, but I'm going to make it part of the question. What rookie are you most excited to see playing, not named Kyler Murray?
No, I'm excited about him. I mean,
give me someone else.
Most excited, probably Isabella.
Yes.
Then, just from a standpoint of he could be a productive guy. I don't think he's going to average 7 yards a catch. I think you're going to see a little bit higher yards after catch, get him in space. So I would say Isabella.
Be interested to see
Murray
with Butler on just how quickly he can grasp the offense and then be that big threat as far as a target.
Cardinals had tall receivers here last year. I don't want to say 6'6" guys, but they had Greg Little, they had Brinson Buckner. They drafted. They actually brought in Carlton Agadosi from Rutgers at the time. So they've had tall. This guy looks like a tall drink of water, but he'll get stronger. And obviously the key there will be getting off press coverage so he can get his route running going.
Last question from Twitter. User wants to know, what are the chance that all 11 draft picks are kept on the roster during the season?
It's a great question. My prediction, I don't think all 11 can make the roster, but the Cardinals can slide, maybe 1, 2, or 3 of those guys to their practice squad.
Yeah, 11 is a lot, and Steve Keim joked about it when he came in for his post-draft press conference on Saturday. He apologized for needing a cheat sheet because he's not used to having that many names to kind of go over at the end of day 3.
And somebody asked him, is 3 wide receivers?
Oh, yeah.
And he said, when you're 3 and 13, we can't have enough receivers. Flood the position. I think that's what they've done based on the draft.
So we'll see. We are going to watch along with you here, Bird Gang, as we kind of figure out about this 2019 draft class, those that were drafted, and then, of course, the undrafted rookie free agents that will be added here this week as well. Got to as many questions as we could here on this Monday. Keep them coming using the hashtag CardsCover2, hashtag CardsCover2. Everyone curious about the draft class. Not as many Kyler Murray questions that I anticipate that I would have thought, but people curious about the offensive line because, let's face it, it starts in the trenches, and you got to be able to block for Kyler Murray to do what Kyler Murray does best.
Yeah, but you don't have to block for 5 to 8 seconds. Get rid of the ball 2-5. I know he's going to spin it down the field, maybe extend plays with his legs. But, I want to say this about Josh Rosen. First of all, I'm glad that people realize how classy he is. And the fact that he's in Miami now. But I think fans were more upset than Josh Rosen was. Josh knew what was going on. I was told on that last day that he was in the facility, he was saying goodbye to guys. And he actually did a story with SI Robert Klemko, and he said, I knew a few minutes before the draft, but my heart didn't want to accept. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he goes, I knew what was happening. And again, he did participate in Larry Fitzgerald's softball celebrity game. He was the MVP, won the home run derby, and he
received a standing ovation from the fans.
And he spoke to the fans, and he's in Miami. He had a great press conference today. Somebody asked him about the 9 mistakes, and he backed off of that once he got here, and he said there were 3 mistakes. And obviously, Chris Greer was not one of those mistakes, the Dolphins GM. But he said today, they asked, and I got the exact quote. He said, "Do you have a chip on your shoulder?" He said, "If I have more of a chip on my shoulder, I'm going to fall over." So he's motivated, and I think he's in a good spot. Again, Chad Shea is the quarterback's coach, Jim Caldwell, the senior assistant, and Brian Flores, good head coach. I thought he got a really good staff considering when they hired him after the Super Bowl. So he's going to be well coached there. It will not be the situation with Steve Wilkes and Mike McCoy.
Let's hope it's a win-win for both.
And we play
Josh
them next
Rosen
year,
and
2020.
The Cardinals with Kyler Murray.
We play the Dolphins next year.
Is that what you know where that is?
I don't.
Okay.
2020. That means the Patriots. Maybe you can get us Tom Brady.
Yeah, you keep hoping for that one.
Just like Adrian Wilson.
Exactly.
I think A-Dub's a little bit easier since he's in the building. We just got to clear it through some channels.
He still might be difficult, even though he's like literally right down the hall. All right, that's going to wrap
He's
up
grinding
this
right
edition
now.
of Cards Cover 2 for a Monday. Appreciate everyone's involvement behind the scenes. Tim Delaney, Jim Omohundro, Devin Henry, Javier Rodriguez, and Jackson Sipes. That's Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Grialou. We'll come to you again on Wednesday. More post-draft coverage. We'll start to break these players down a little bit more in depth on a case-by-case or player-by-player basis. We'll start that on Wednesday. Until then, have yourselves a wonderful week here on Cards Cover 2.